Attention! This message is for those who truly love Jesus and are not afraid to face the truth, no matter how difficult it may be. At this very moment, you are about to discover something that very few have the privilege to know. Only those who hate Jesus would dare to ignore this. If you really love your Savior, you need to hear what I am about to tell you. What comes next is not just a common warning, it is an urgent and limited revelation that could change your life forever. Time is running out, and not everyone will have the opportunity to receive this blessing. Imagine for a moment that you have in your hands the key to unlocking a life full of blessings, a life that many can only dream of. But there is a crucial detail. This opportunity is unique and will not come again. Those who decide to ignore this message will regret having missed the only door that separated them from a radical transformation. Will you be one of them, or will you take action now? This is an urgent call, a cry from the heart of God for you to wake up and see what is about to happen. Make no mistake, what I am about to share is not for everyone, but only for those who truly love Jesus and are willing to make decisions that will impact their eternity. And here is the promise that will change your life. If you stay with me until the end of this message, you will experience a financial miracle in your life. A blessing so great that only those who have faith in Christ will be able to receive it. The reward is great, but time is limited. Are you ready to receive what God has prepared for you? There is no time to lose. The moment is now. In moments of extreme exhaustion, when the weight of injustices seems unbearable, it is natural for the soul to cry out for relief. Life, with its twists and turns, can lead anyone to question the meaning of perseverance. But it is precisely in those moments of greatest weakness that blessed money becomes an unexpected source of strength and hope, reminding us that financial blessings come in God's timing. It is common to feel betrayed by life, especially when efforts seem to bear no fruit. However, these trials are nothing more than disguised opportunities, moments in which God tests our faith and resilience. He sees beyond our tears and despair, preparing the way for a reward that exceeds any human expectation. In this process, every penny earned honestly becomes a sign of divine justice in action. The feeling of injustice can lead to bitterness, but it is crucial to remember that God's justice never fails. While earthly justice may delay or even seem absent, divine justice is inevitable and perfect. Those who have suffered and waited patiently will receive in their time the financial blessing they so desire. Blessed money is, after all, the reflection of a life lived according to God's principles. A clear example of this justice can be seen in the lives of those who, having been slandered and marginalized, have persevered in their faith. These individuals, far from giving up, cling to the promise that God has a greater plan. Their patience and unwavering faith are eventually rewarded with abundance and prosperity, demonstrating that divine justice always prevails, even if it takes time to manifest. The key to overcoming these moments of trial lies in keeping our eyes fixed on God, fully trusting in His plan. There is no need to seek revenge or harbor grudges, for God takes care of everything. Instead, we are invited to focus on the blessings to come, on the blessed money that God has reserved for those who are faithful to Him. Many times, despair can cloud our vision, making us doubt God's goodness. But it is precisely in those moments of greatest darkness that we must remember that His justice is infallible. The difficulties are merely the prelude to a financial blessing that will change our lives forever. Only those who trust without reservation will be able to see God's complete work in their lives. The story of Job is a constant reminder of how God restores what the enemy has tried to destroy. Despite losing everything, Job never renounced his faith, and God rewarded him abundantly. In the same way, those who face injustices today must keep their faith, knowing that God has prepared a future of prosperity and financial blessing for them. There is no greater comfort than knowing that, despite the injustices we face, God is on our side. He sees every tear, hears every prayer, and in His perfect timing, acts on our behalf. The financial blessing is not just a reward, but also a tangible demonstration of His love and justice. That is why it is essential to remain firm in faith, trusting that His justice will prevail. As we move forward in life, it is essential to remember that every trial has a purpose. God never allows us to suffer in vain. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow and strengthen our faith. Over time, we will see how those trials turn into blessings, how blessed money flows to those who have remained faithful despite everything. History is full of examples of people who, having faced great injustices, were elevated by God's justice. These stories are not just ancient tales but living testimonies of what God can do for us today. Those who maintain their faith, even in the midst of the worst storms, will discover that God is faithful to His word and that financial blessing is only part of the reward that awaits them. It is important not to lose sight of the fact that God's justice is not only manifested in the spiritual realm but also in the material. The blessed money we receive is a sign of His favor, proof that, although the road may be difficult, those who trust in Him will never be abandoned. So keep the faith because the best is yet to come. In a world full of distractions and temptations, it is easy to lose focus on what truly matters, our relationship with God. Society bombards us with messages of revenge, of seeking success at any cost, and of accumulating wealth without purpose. Revenge may seem sweet at the moment, but it is, in reality, a poison that consumes the soul. God urges us to set aside those feelings and trust in His justice, which is perfect and infallible. Money that comes from impure sources will never bring peace or blessing. On the contrary, only those who fully trust in God, without seeking revenge, will find in their path the blessed money that truly enriches their lives. Bitterness is a silent enemy that can infiltrate our hearts if we are not careful. When someone has wronged us, it is natural to feel resentment, but God asks us to release that grudge and leave it in His hands. He promises us that those who trust in His plan, instead of clinging to bitterness, will see how financial blessings come unexpectedly, transforming their lives and surroundings. An example of how focusing on God brings financial blessings is the story of Joseph, who, despite being betrayed by his brothers, never stopped trusting in God. His faithfulness was rewarded when God elevated him to a position of power in Egypt, where he not only received material abundance but also the opportunity to bless many. Thus, the blessed money that Joseph received was a reflection of his faith and trust in God. Sometimes, pain and betrayal can make us doubt God's plan for our lives. But it is precisely in those moments that we must redouble our focus on Him, knowing that every painful experience is working for our good. Blessed money is not just a material resource but a manifestation of God's justice and faithfulness towards those who follow Him wholeheartedly. The Scriptures teach us that we must seek first the kingdom of God and His justice, and all other things will be added unto us. This principle is fundamental in maintaining focus on what truly matters. When we prioritize our relationship with God over any other aspect of life, including financial concerns, we discover that blessed money flows to us in unexpected ways, always at the perfect moment. Instead of worrying about money, God invites us to trust in His provision. Throughout the Bible, we see how God provides for His children in miraculous ways, whether through manna in the desert or multiplying loaves and fishes. In the same way today, we can trust that He will provide for our needs, ensuring that every financial blessing we receive is filled with His favor and grace. Life offers us many opportunities to stray from God's path, but every decision we make reflects our true priority. Those who choose to follow God, even when it is difficult, discover that their lives are filled with blessings that blessed money can buy, and also those that money cannot buy, such as peace, joy, and inner satisfaction. Keeping focus on God requires discipline and determination, especially in a world that values material things so highly. However, those who achieve this find that not only do their spiritual lives flourish, but their finances are also blessed in ways they never imagined. Blessed money, then, is not just a means of subsistence but a tool to fulfill the purposes that God has for our lives. In this journey, it is vital to remember that we are not alone. God accompanies us every step of the way, guiding and protecting us from those who seek our harm. His promise is clear: if we remain focused on Him, if we avoid the path of revenge and resentment, we will witness how His justice manifests in our lives, bringing financial blessings that exceed any expectation. So, as we move forward in this journey, let us keep our eyes fixed on God. He is our guide, our protector, and our provider. Through every challenge and temptation, let us remember that blessed money is just one part of the reward that God has in store for those who remain faithful. Let us continue with confidence, knowing that His plan is perfect and that our lives are in His hands. The destiny of those who have been faithful is marked by vindication. Although the paths of life may seem unjust and full of obstacles, God has a perfect plan for each of us. Those who have remained firm in their faith, even in the midst of the most difficult trials, will be lifted by His mighty hand. Blessed money is a tangible sign of this divine vindication, a reminder that God never abandons His own. The detractors, those who have envied and criticized the faithful, will be left to watch from a distance when the moment of elevation comes. Their envy will be a witness to divine justice in action, and they will see how those they despised are abundantly blessed. This situation demonstrates that true power lies in faithfulness to God, not in efforts to destroy others. Blessed money, in this context, is not just a material blessing but a symbol of spiritual victory. Throughout history, we see examples of how God vindicates those who are faithful. David, for example, was pursued by Saul but never stopped trusting in God. It is easy to lose hope when detractors seem to have the upper hand, but faith reminds us that God has the final word. Those who have been faithful must remain calm and trust that God will do justice in His perfect time. The blessed money they receive will be proof that patience and faithfulness have their reward, even when everything seems against them. Those who have suffered injustices, slander, or persecution can be sure that their vindication is on the way. God does not ignore the suffering of His children; rather, He uses it as part of His plan to lift them up. When the time comes, those who were faithful will be elevated to a position of honor, and the blessed money they receive will be a manifestation of God's justice, which never fails. Vindication is not just about receiving a material reward, but about seeing how God acts powerfully and transformatively in our lives. It is the satisfaction of knowing that, despite the difficulties, we have remained faithful and trusted in His plan. Blessed money, in this case, is only part of the blessing that God grants us for our faithfulness. An example of vindication in modern life might be that of a person who has been unjustly dismissed from their job. At first, it may seem that injustice has won, but over time, God opens new doors and opportunities that surpass what that person could have imagined. The blessed money that comes into their hands is proof that God always has a better plan, even when we do not immediately understand it. The envy of detractors has no power over the faithful because God is the one who guides their steps. Those who trust in Him do not need to worry about what others may say or do. Their destiny is in God's hands, and His justice is unbreakable. When the moment of vindication comes, the detractors will only be able to watch from afar as financial blessings flow to those who have been faithful. The life of Joseph, sold as a slave by his own brothers, is a powerful testimony of how God vindicates the faithful. Although Joseph suffered many injustices, he never lost faith. In the end, he was elevated to the position of governor of Egypt, and his blessed money not only benefited him but also saved his family and many others. This story reminds us that divine vindication is always complete and abundant. As we follow the path that God has laid out for us, we can be sure that His justice will manifest. No matter how many difficulties we face or how many detractors try to bring us down, God will always vindicate those who remain faithful. The blessed money we receive is just a glimpse of His goodness and the reward that awaits us for our faithfulness. In the crucible of suffering, God forges the character and faith of His children. Every tear shed, every pain endured, is not in vain. It is part of a divine process of refinement. Just as gold is purified by fire, so too are our lives shaped by the trials we face. God, in His infinite wisdom, uses these experiences to prepare us for the great blessings to come, including the blessed money that He has reserved for us. Strength is not developed in times of comfort, but in the midst of adversity. It is in those moments of greatest difficulty that we discover the true measure of our faith. Through every trial, God gives us the opportunity to grow and strengthen our spirit. And though the road may be arduous, those who persevere will see their lives transformed in unexpected ways, including the arrival of financial blessings that exceed any expectation. Suffering also teaches us to depend completely on God, recognizing that our strength alone is not enough. In those moments of weakness, we most need to cling to His promise that He will never leave us nor forsake us. The financial blessing that God grants us in those difficult times is proof of His faithfulness and that, despite our limitations, He provides everything we need. When we face suffering, it is easy to fall into the trap of self-pity or resentment. However, God calls us to look beyond our pain and see the greater purpose He has for our lives. Every trial is an opportunity to demonstrate our faith and draw closer to Him. And when we persevere, the reward is not long in coming. The blessed money arrives as a testimony that God fulfills His promises. The Bible is full of stories of men and women who, through suffering, found strength they did not know they had. These examples encourage us to see our own difficulties not as punishments, but as opportunities to grow and strengthen our faith. And in that process, God surprises us with blessings we could not have imagined, including financial resources that come at just the right time. An important lesson we learn in suffering is the importance of patience. God's blessings do not always arrive immediately, but when they do, they are always perfect and abundant. Through patience, we cultivate deeper faith and a greater understanding of God's timing and ways. And in the end, the blessed money we receive is just part of the reward for our perseverance and trust in Him. In the midst of suffering, it is vital to remember that we are not alone. God walks with us through every trial, giving us the strength to overcome any obstacle. His presence is our comfort, and His promise is our hope. And while we remain faithful, we can be sure that financial and material blessings will come as a tangible demonstration of His love and care. Suffering also helps us to value the blessings we receive, especially when they have been earned through effort and perseverance. The blessed money that comes after a season of trials has special value, not only because it meets our needs, but because it is a constant reminder of God's faithfulness. Every coin is a testimony that, although the road was hard, God never abandoned us. When we overcome our trials, we look back and see how each challenge has strengthened us. Pain and suffering are not the end, but the means through which God prepares us for a future of blessing. Those who trust in Him will discover that their lives have been enriched in ways that go beyond the material. However, the blessed money they receive is a visible symbol that God has been with them every step of the way. God is working in you. He is using every challenge to prepare you for the great things He has in store. The strength you develop in these moments will be the foundation upon which you will build a life full of blessings. And when those blessings come, including financial ones, you will know that they are the fruit of your faith and trust in a God who never fails. In life, we all face seasons of trial that seem endless, but it is important to remember that every difficult season has an end. God promises us that after the storm comes the calm, and with it, a new beginning full of opportunities and blessings. Those who have endured the pain with faith and patience are about to enter the best days of their lives, where blessed money will flow as part of the abundance that God has prepared for them. The promise of new beginnings is not just a comfort but a tangible reality for those who trust in God. When He closes a door, it is because He is preparing something much better. This new chapter in the lives of the faithful will be marked by divine favor and grace, manifested in all areas, including finances. The blessed money they receive will not just be material help but a sign that God is with them, guiding them toward a future of prosperity. A new beginning can be the change you have long awaited. Whether in your career, your relationships, or your finances, God has the power to transform what seemed lost into something new and full of life. When you trust in Him, you discover that there is no situation too difficult for Him to change. The blessed money that arrives in this new stage is proof that when God renews, He does so in a big way. Sometimes, life seems to be on pause as if everything has come to a halt. But God, in His wisdom, uses these moments of apparent stillness to prepare us for the next great step. When you least expect it, He opens doors you did not know existed, and with them come opportunities for financial blessing that will change your life. The blessed money you receive is just one part of the new season that God has designed for you. New beginnings often require leaving the old behind, even when that means letting go of something we value. God invites us to trust in His plan, knowing that what He has for us is always better than what we leave behind. In this new stage, we will see how the financial blessings that once seemed out of reach now become a reality, showing us that blessed money is part of God's perfect plan for our lives. The hope of a new beginning gives us the strength to move forward, even when everything seems dark. We know that God never leaves us stuck in our difficulties. He always has a plan to bring us out. And as we move forward, we will see how God's promises are fulfilled, bringing not only peace and joy but also financial prosperity. Blessed money is a constant reminder that God is doing something new and wonderful in our lives. An example of a new beginning is the story of Ruth, who, after losing her husband, decided to follow her mother-in-law Naomi and trust in the God of Israel. Her faithfulness and decision to start anew led her to be abundantly blessed, not only with a new family but also with prosperity. The blessed money she received was proof that God is faithful to His promises and always has something better prepared for us. The promise of new beginnings is an invitation to dream again, not to settle for what we have lost, but to look forward with hope. God not only restores what has been lost but multiplies it. The blessed money that arrives in this new stage is a sign of God's generosity, who never leaves us empty-handed when we trust in Him. In every new beginning, God gives us the opportunity to redefine our priorities and focus our lives on what truly matters. It is a time to leave behind the worries and anxieties of the past and embrace the new life that God offers us. And as we walk in this new direction, we will see how blessed money becomes a resource to fulfill the divine purposes in our lives. God always goes before you, preparing the way. There is nothing to fear because He is with you, guiding and protecting you. The financial blessings you receive are just one part of the countless ways God will show His favor in your life. Blessed money is a sign that you are on the right path, following the direction that God has laid out for you. In a world full of dangers and threats, it is natural to seek protection. God, in His infinite mercy, has promised to always be with those who trust in Him. No matter how dark the circumstances become, His presence is an impenetrable shield that protects us from all harm. The security we find in God is incomparable, and every blessing, including blessed money, is proof that He cares for us in every aspect of our lives. The weapons formed against us, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, will not prosper. This divine promise is an anchor in the midst of life's storms. God has decreed that no opposing force will succeed in its attempt to harm us. When we walk in His will, we experience protection that goes beyond the visible, covering us in every situation. The blessed money that comes into our hands is a testimony of that divine protection, assuring us that even in difficult times, God provides. God's protection manifests in ways we do not immediately understand. We may not see the danger from which He is saving us, but His presence is there, guiding and protecting us at every step. The financial blessings we receive, sometimes unexpectedly, are a sign that God is working in our lives, ensuring that we are provided for and cared for, even when circumstances seem adverse. The promise that no weapon formed against you shall prosper is a reminder that our struggle is not only against human forces, but also against spiritual powers. But in Christ, we are more than conquerors. God has established a hedge of protection around us, and that includes our financial lives. The blessed money that comes into our hands is not just a resource but a symbol that God is watching over every area of our lives. When we face times of uncertainty or danger, it is easy to fall into fear or anxiety. But God calls us to rest in His protection, knowing that He is greater than any problem we may face. Every time we receive a financial blessing, we should remember that it is a manifestation of His constant care. Blessed money is proof that, although weapons may be formed, they will not succeed against us. In everyday life, this divine protection can manifest in seemingly ordinary situations. Perhaps we avoid an accident or find a solution to a financial problem just in time. These are not coincidences, but examples of how God intervenes in our lives to protect us. The blessed money we receive is a tangible form of that protection, assuring us that our needs will always be met by His mighty hand. God's protection is not only limited to the physical, it also encompasses our minds and spirits. He guards us from negative thoughts, despair, and the lies the enemy tries to sow in our hearts. His protection is complete, covering every aspect of our lives. The financial blessings we receive are proof that His hand is upon us, guiding us toward a future full of hope and prosperity. It is important to remember that God's protection does not mean we will not face difficulties, but that, through them, He will be with us, strengthening and guiding us. Trials may come, but they will not destroy us because we are under the shadow of the Almighty. The blessed money we receive is a reminder that, even though we face challenges, God is our provision and faithful protector. The Christian life is a constant process of transformation. God calls us not to conform to this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. This change is not only spiritual but affects all areas of our lives, including our finances. As we allow God to work in us, we see how our priorities change, and with them, our financial decisions. Blessed money becomes a tool to fulfill God's purposes in our lives. The growth we experience in our relationship with God is not accidental. It is the result of a deliberate commitment to follow His ways. Through this growth, our lives are transformed from the inside out, increasingly reflecting the character of Christ. This process of transformation not only brings peace and joy but also opens doors to new opportunities, including financial blessings. The blessed money we receive is part of the reward for our obedience and faithfulness. The transformation that God operates in our lives also manifests in how we manage our resources. As we grow in our faith, we learn to see money not just as a means to meet our needs, but as a tool to bless others and fulfill God's purposes. Blessed money becomes a seed that, when sown in fertile soil, produces an abundant harvest for us and others. Through growth, God prepares us to receive the blessings He has reserved for us. We are not always ready to handle everything He wants to give us, so it is necessary to go through a process of transformation that equips us to manage His provision properly. This process may include trials and challenges, but in the end, it leads us to a place of greater maturity and responsibility, where blessed money is proof of God's trust in us. Transformation and growth are not always easy. They often require sacrifice and renunciation. But every step we take in obedience to God brings us closer to the full and abundant life He has promised. As we grow, we discover that our priorities change, and with them, our relationship with money. Life offers us many opportunities to grow, but it is our decision whether to seize them. God invites us to walk with Him in a process of transformation that, although challenging, is full of rewards. As we accept His call, we see how our lives change in surprising ways, and the blessed money we receive becomes a reflection of the blessings God pours out on those who trust in Him. Transformation also involves leaving behind old habits and thoughts that prevent us from moving forward. God calls us to renew our minds and align our actions with His will. This process may be uncomfortable, but it is necessary for spiritual and material growth. As we are transformed, we discover that blessed money arrives not only to meet our needs, but to fulfill the divine purpose in our lives. Every stage of growth brings new challenges and new blessings. God never leaves us where we are. He is always leading us to a place of greater maturity and responsibility. As we grow in our faith and allow Him to transform our lives, we see how financial blessings flow to us in ways we never imagined. Blessed money is just one part of the many ways God shows His favor in our lives. Now that you have reached the end of this message, it is time to take action. God has revealed powerful truths to you that have the potential to transform not only your spiritual life, but also your financial life. But the question you must ask yourself is, are you willing to apply what you have learned? Are you going to allow this knowledge to remain just words, or are you going to turn it into a force that changes your reality? Imagine what your life would be like if you started living under these teachings, if every day you made decisions aligned with God's will, and if you allowed His power to operate in all areas of your life, especially in your finances. Isn't this what you have always desired? Are you ready to see that promised financial miracle? I challenge you to take the next step. Do not let fear or doubt stop you. Share in the comments what your first step will be to apply this knowledge, and together, as a community, we will see how God's promises are fulfilled in our lives. And if you have not already done so, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you do not miss any message that can bring you closer to the life God has for you. This is just the beginning of something great.